Hi, welcome back. I imagine that you're still following me because whether or not you agree with me or not on what I've proposed so far, at least it has interested you. Okay? And I can imagine that some of you have been waiting for what I'm going to share on next. I can imagine people saying, well, Brother Green, you brought up some interesting points as it applies to the tithe, as it applies to the Old Testament, some very interesting points. In fact, Brother Green, we agree with you. We agree with you with everything you said so far, that we're not obligated. God does not require us to tithe because of the law. We agree with you, Brother Green. Except, Brother Green, I can hear folks telling, okay, since tithing came before the law, that's the real reason that we tithe, Brother Green. Now, what are you going to say about that? Okay? I'm not saying that you think that way. Other people think that way. That's okay. If we can go to these scriptures here that I'm going to share with now, with an open mind, and not a mind that's blank, okay? A mind that is here to listen to what the Bible really teaches on the issue. Okay, on the issue of tithing, as it occurs before the law. Now, Abram is our example. His name at that time was Abram. That's why I'm saying that. Later, his name was changed to Abraham. Okay, but at this time, the Bible, God had not changed his name yet, so his name was Abram. Okay, Abram is not our example on everything he did. Okay, Abram is our example on quite a few things that he did do. All right, but first let's look at some things where he's not our example. All right, Abram told his wife to lie. Okay, he made an agreement with her to lie when they went down to Egypt. All right, he was afraid for his life, afraid that she was so fine that she was going to be taken and they would just kill him to get her. All right, so Abram, had his wife lie and say that that they were brother and sister, and so that he could protect his own life. Okay, protect his own life. A couple of issues there. Well, this is Father Abraham, okay? A couple of issues here. Taught his wife to lie. Made an agreement to lie about their real relationship, okay? He did that because he didn't trust God to protect him, right? Instead of trusting God to protect him where he went, instead he thought he needed a lie to cover him. And that lie would be his protection. Okay? That's why anybody lies. Okay? You think the lie is going to cover for your mistake. You know, you think your lie is going to cover for the last lie you told. Right? Abram was guilty of making the same mistake that some of us make. Okay? Trying to get a lie to conceal what the truth really is. Right? So as I pointed out, that was part of the problem, and he didn't trust God to protect him. Another situation where we cannot use Abram as our example had to do with his early obedience. Okay, his early obedience. God spoke to him and said, "We want you to leave your country, leave your relatives, leave everybody, and go where I'm going to tell you to go." Abraham got up, right, in obedience, headed out, took Lot with him. Okay, God had just told him to leave everybody, okay, but Lot went with him. All right, now, you know, maybe Abram was in a tough spot, you know, maybe Lot was just latched on to him, whatever, but the instructions that God gave Abram was for him to leave everybody. Everybody didn't get left. Lot came along with him, okay? That was a problem. Another example, another situation where we cannot use Abram as our example, okay? And that has to do with the agreement that Abram had with his wife, right? And this agreement had to do with his wife, Sarai, encouraging him to sleep with her maidservant so that she could build a family through the maidservant. Since she was so old, she figured she couldn't conceive. God has his limits, you know. You know, that's what she was, that's how she was reckoning. I'm so old, and you're getting older, Abram. Hey, why don't you give it a try? Go ahead and sleep with my maidservant here, and the handmaiden, and see if you can. What she said was, see if I, Sarai, can build a family through her. Okay, that was a problem. That was not a good thing. Right? Give them the benefit of the doubt. They had good intentions, helping God out. Okay, because after all, it seemed like God was coming a little late. You know, Brother Abraham was getting older, and his wife was getting older, and just didn't seem like things were going to work out. So they agreed to help God out a little bit. Okay, that was a mistake. Why do I point this out? I don't point this out to put Abram down, okay? I point this out to say that just because Abram did something, that by itself does no way indicate, no way makes a statement that says that we should do the same thing. I just gave you 3 examples there. There's more, okay? There's more, all right? I don't want to go all over those. All I want to point out is, and I hope you can accept the fact that, no, just because Abram did something, right, whether it's the things I pointed out or tithing, okay, the fact that he tithed, and he did tithe, the scriptures are correct, I'm not quarreling with that. But just because he did it, that alone does not say that therefore all of Christianity needs to do it. No, he is not, as you'll see as I point out here, he is not our example for the things I pointed out, neither is he our example for the issue of tithing. Okay, watch. Now, let me say something positive about Abram. Okay, Abram, later on, as he matured in his walk with the Lord, okay, he had a lot of faith to believe God. Remember after his son Isaac was born, okay, and he got to be of age, Abram was willing to sacrifice his son. He drew the knife. He was willing to go ahead and kill his son because his faith was so big at that point. After he made all these other mistakes in his early part of his life, okay, this early part of his walk with the Lord, he had finally gotten to the point where, oh, God means what he says. If God says he's going to build a family through my son, he's going to do it, he's going to do it, he's going to do it. Because I already saw what God could do, even though I was too old to have children and my wife was too old to bear children, and God turned around and made it happen. So if God wants to, Abram is saying, so if God wants me to sacrifice my son, God can raise him up again, because this is a child of promise, God's promise, okay? So his faith was big enough that he wasn't troubled. He wasn't troubled at the risk of possibly losing his son, okay? And the Bible talked about that. He figured God could raise him from the dead. Wasn't a problem. He had big faith when it came to that. But that didn't come overnight. That came after a walk with the Lord. Some stumbling. Abraham stumbled. Okay? Oh yeah, he stumbled. He made mistakes. Right? Another sermon, I can talk about that a little bit more. So, let's catch up to this story. All right? This is a story of, and I imagine all of you are familiar with it. Right? But before I assume that we're really familiar enough with it, I want to read it. Okay? Some of you know me by now. I enjoy reading. I am blessed by just reading the scriptures. We are all blessed by just reading the scriptures. Okay? Listen, let me read this to you. Genesis chapter 14, starting at